TO Blaze.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another Kerbal Space Program video, and just like the last, we're going to be going back to Duna. Plan on doing a few missions and videos involving Duna in my sandbox mode, so that I can make use of all the neat things that I've already sent out there. I've already put up a relay network, I've already put up a station, and got a crew. So now it's time to start sending things down to the surface. And before I do that, I'd like to scout out some of the zones that are supposedly more ore rich, so that I can refuel some SSTOs or some rockets or something a little more efficiently and faster. So in order to do that, I've decided to send a helicopter as opposed to a rover. I think I've already sent a rover on like one of the earlier missions, a little tiny thing that it found a zone that's no good. So I do need to identify a zone that's better suited for landing, and that's what this little guy's going to do for us. So I plan on sending a couple. That's why I'm going for something small, and it's electric, and it's going to have solar panels, so that it's technically I got an unlimited range. I could fly all the way around Duna if I had all the freaking time in the world, which I don't. So I'm going to send two of these, or three, depending on how big I can, or how small I can make them rather, and I can release one and hopefully find a good spot and maybe not need the others. But so not much about the design to talk about yet. Trying to go for a minimalist approach. Need at least a couple batteries. I've got a reaction wheel, which is probably cheating. Anytime you're in atmosphere and you use a reaction wheel, it's kind of unrealistic, I guess. But I'm going to go ahead and use one anyway, just because it makes the flight way more stable. So right now I've only got one rotor and a set of blades, and there you saw I set the pitch back to 0%. For whatever reason, the default isn't 0. So set it to 0 and then increase it a hair, and that's just to prove that this thing can fly. And now I'm thinking I want to stabilize the flight a little more. That wasn't very nice. I had to keep adjusting, and also realized usually I use that Cal 1000 and set the rotor blade pitch to the cow. So instead of using the throttle to control the rotor is just going to spin at the same speed and same force all the time, and the pitch of the blades is what's going to make me go up or down, faster or slower. Also, in order to get some stability, I decided to go with a contra-rotating design. So I'll have two rotors, one right above the other, using a little bit of fancy, not pork clipping, but rotation and whatnot to get the rotors on top of each other like that. If you were to snap a rotor on top of a rotor, the top rotor would spin with the bottom one, which is no good. So I'll probably have to tweak it a couple times to get it to spin in the correct direction. But again, the default position of the rotors should be around 0. You could set it a little below 0 if you want the ability to, I guess, descend faster. And then the max for the pitch, around 10 or 12 degrees, worked for this design. There's no rule of thumb that I can think of that works. But in there, I'm okay. So I'm noticing I've got some lift in the wrong direction. So I must have set the rotors to rotate in the wrong direction. Either that, or I could rotate the blades. But I don't feel like messing with the blades, so I'm just going to set the rotors to spin in the opposite directions than they just were. And let's go ahead and run that test again and see if I can get some flight. And look how smooth. And that's with or without SAS, actually. I have SAS turned on. That the little reaction wheel's not doing much because the contra rotating blades are so nice. So this is just proving how nimble and how well I can fly this thing. And then I'm realizing, oh, my solar panel's no good. It's going to cause me to tip, which I don't want. So I'll go back to the VAB, or the spaceplane hangar, in a second and adjust that. But I'm going to also fly out. Never flown a helicopter out into the launch pad before. Let's see if I can, how close I can get it. Oh, it is a little difficult to fly, but it handles pretty well. I'm not too concerned. Oh, broke something. All right, back to the VAB. So let's make some final final adjustments, and we'll get this thing ready for mass production, a whole 2 or 3 of them. And definitely need to move that solar panel. So I'm thinking, don't want the blades to block the solar panel whenever it's trying to collect sunlight, and I can set it on top in the place of that nose cone, and it'll still look kind of cool. And that's gonna do it for me, and that allows me to free up some space in the back so I can move that resource scanner to the back now. So that's all the parts that I need on the helicopter, on the probe. So now I'm just kind of toying with some ideas for how I'm gonna house this thing in a rocket and drop it into the atmosphere and deploy it and so forth. So I was thinking of something like this. I was kind of piddling, but pretty quickly realized that's not going to be a great design for attaching a decoupler and allowing this thing to get clear of the structure. So I'm going back with the tried and true method of just put it in a tube that a heat shield can fit nicely on, and I can readily attach some parachutes and stuff. So kind of just toying with the different options. Am I going to put a parachute on the probe itself so that the tube can just detach and descend and crash without it, or how I'm going to do it? But go ahead and attach my heat shield on the bottom. I'll put fuel in the bottom tank and no fuel on the top tank, so that the top being on the left there with the parachutes and the engines, so that hopefully the center mass will be all the way to the front with the heat shield, and it'll be lighter on the other side where the engines are. And I have the engines pointing forward, which is unusual, but that's going to make it so that I don't have to ditch them. It fit the design fairly well. And that's it. That's how modular it is. So now I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to fit a couple of these? And I was thinking of putting 3 or 4 of them like that, but then I decided let's just stack them in a fairing. So I've got 2. 2 should be enough. If I can't find a good landing zone with the first one, I've got a backup, but I don't think I'll need the backup actually. So I'm just going to make my little transfer stage, kind of making sure none of the staging got messed up. When I brought the craft in as a sub-assembly, sub-assemblies unfortunately lose a lot of their action groups, and like the Cow 1000, for instance, is no longer set to the rotor blades, which I forgot. So part of the way through the mission is going to cause me some trouble. But sub-assemblies are really handy, but they're also kind of a pain in the butt. So, and that's the bottom stage. Checking my thrust and making sure I've got enough, which I've got plenty of thrust, but I don't have enough delta V. So let's add some fuel. And I haven't done this type of design in a very long time, but I'm going to put some detachable tanks at the bottom that don't even have engines on them, because that mainsail engine has got plenty of thrust. So those tanks are just for extra range, extra delta V. And I'll speed up the ascent, as you can see, because I've done this a bunch of times. But yeah, whenever you've got too much, or you've got plenty of extra thrust in that first stage, you can always add more fuel tanks. I didn't want to make the rocket taller, which is why I put them on the side and I decoupled them. So more efficient, and it also made the rocket a little shorter. So got my transfer set up to Duna using the that maneuver planner, and all the way back to Duna already. So let's circularize, and let's adjust my inclination to match the target, and we'll detach my first attempt. So obviously I'll crank up the ore and see where I can find a dense area, which I've already done. So it's on the screen, that's the pink areas. So I'm aiming for this crater because it's in a equatorial position and it's nice and big. Should be an interesting place to land. And yeah, you saw the propellers. Oh, so when I decoupled the probe, none of the action groups had all the action groups I had set up were no longer functioning. So now I'm taking the time to reset all of them as I slowly descend towards the planet. And for whatever reason, the Cow 1000, I can't manually change the values. So I can't set it to 0% and I can't set it to 12%. But I set it to the closest values I could, and thankfully they matched. So the rotors are going to spin at the same RPM, and the blades are going to be the same pitch. So that's at least nice. And this ended up working out better than the original design because I couldn't set it to exactly 0. I set it a little below 0. Like I mentioned before, that gives me the ability to descend more quickly, which is nice. So just kind of hopping out of it, and boom, there's my probe. Let's see if it can fly. First, let me recharge the battery, and it flies. Nice. So I was kind of concerned that the rotor sizes were going to be too small, or the blades were going to be too small, weren't going to generate enough lift. But these things are well oversized, overpowered for what you need to do in the game most of the time. So it flew on the first try. I was very thankful. And there, so I'm doing the resource scanning and kind of checking out some of these things on the horizon, and I've got plenty of resources in this crater. So this is where I'm going to come in future missions. So appreciate you watching the video. If you're interested in Duna and what I might be doing, come back and check out the next couple videos. I'll definitely be making back to the red planet. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope to see you again in the next video.